Connective, muscle, and nervous tissues are discussed in this screencast. These topics can all be found in Chapter 3 of your textbook. This screencast was designed to help you achieve the following objectives. Describe the distinguishing characteristics of connective tissue. Describe collagen, elastic, and reticular fibers. Describe the form, function, and location of each specific type of connective tissue. Describe the function common to all muscle tissue. List the 3 types of muscle tissue and identify their locations in the human body. And list the cells of nervous tissue and briefly describe their functions. Connective tissue is the most widely distributed tissue in the body. It's literally found everywhere. Functions include binding one body tissue to another, connecting different organs to one another and different parts of the body to one another, as its name implies. Connective tissue supports many organs as well as the body in general, and it also, in some cases, provides protection to organs of the body. Connective tissue really varies in blood supply. Some tissues are very well vascularized, that is, supplied with blood vessels such as bone, while others have a very poor blood supply, such as cartilage and dense connective tissue of ligaments and tendons. One of the distinguishing characteristics of connective tissue is that it contains a great deal of extracellular matrix, basically non-living material that is found outside of living cells. Unlike epithelial tissue, where the cells are bunched together and there's very little space between them, there's quite a bit of space between cells of the connective tissues, and that space is filled with this non-living material or extracellular matrix. Now, when we look at the extracellular matrix, it consists of ground substance. Ground substance typically contains a lot of water. It also has these adhesion proteins which adhere to the cells of the connective tissue. There are charged polysaccharide molecules which hold water in the extracellular matrix, and there are also ionic compounds found there as well. The other components of the extracellular matrix are fibers: collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and reticular fibers. Collagen fibers are thick threads of parallel bundles of the protein collagen. Collagen fibers have great tensile strength. This means that they resist being pulled apart, as indicated by the blue arrows. This is important because collagen fibers are major components of tendons and ligaments. Because they have great tensile strength, they can resist the considerable pulling forces of musculoskeletal movements. Those organs which contain a lot of collagen fibers appear white, and that is why collagen fibers are sometimes referred to as white fibers. Elastic fibers are thinner than collagen fibers, and they're also highly branched, and they're composed of the protein elastin. Elastic fibers are easily stretched and easily deformed, but once the pulling forces are removed, they return to their original length and shape. Therefore, they have great elasticity, just like a rubber band that returns to its original shape and length once you remove the pulling forces. Elastic fibers are commonly found in parts of the body that are regularly stretched, such as the vocal cords. Sometimes elastic fibers are referred to as yellow fibers because structures and organs which have large numbers of elastic fibers appear yellow. Reticular fibers are thinner than both collagen and elastic fibers. They are highly branched, and they're composed of the protein collagen. Reticular fibers provide a soft, delicate, supportive network for certain tissues, including those of the spleen and other lymphatic organs. There are several types of connective tissue. There is connective tissue proper, which includes loose connective tissue, which includes areolar and adipose tissue. Then you have dense connective tissue. Those are the two subtypes of connective tissue proper. Then you have specialized connective tissue, which include cartilage, bone, and blood. Areolar connective tissue is a type of loose connective tissue. It is the most widely distributed, not only connective tissue, but tissue in the body. It's found associated or surrounding most organs. It is a soft, pliable tissue. Areola means small open space. And if you look at areolar tissue under the microscope, you see a lot of white areas, and that indicates the areas where there's nothing there, at least nothing that light can't penetrate through. So what makes up most of the extracellular matrix is water, and then dispersed throughout that water you have various cells such as fibroblasts, some lymphocytes, that's a type of white blood cell, and fat cells. Collagen fibers and elastic fibers are also present. Because there's such a large amount of water in the extracellular matrix, areolar tissue acts as a water reservoir for nearby tissues. It also provides a dumping ground for waste products for nearby tissues as well. Swelling or edema is caused by a buildup of water in the extracellular matrix of areolar connective tissue. So when you hit your head and you get a lump or bump that rises in response to that injury, that's due to water moving into areolar tissue around the site of injury. Adipose tissue is another loose connective tissue. Typically, adipocytes store very little fat. However, they can accumulate so much intracellular fat that they literally crowd out other cells and also the extracellular matrix. When this occurs, we describe that tissue as adipose tissue. Adipose tissue serves several functions. It can insulate the body when it's found underneath the skin as subcutaneous fat. Adipose tissue also provides protection to many organs, particularly visceral organs, such as the liver or the GI tract or the heart. They literally provide a physical cushion to those organs. And lastly, adipose tissue, of course, is a storage form of energy, since lipid contains twice as much energy as carbohydrate or protein. Fat cells contain so much fat in the cytoplasm that it literally pushes the nucleus to one side or one end of the cell. And sometimes they look like little rings, so sometimes adipocytes, fat cells, are referred to as signet ring cells. Dense connective tissue is also called fibrous connective tissue because of the abundance of collagen fibers, and these collagen fibers are produced by fibroblasts. The abundance of collagen fibers makes dense connective tissue very tough and durable. Dense connective tissue is the main component of tendons, ligaments, and scar tissue. Now that we have discussed connective tissue proper, let's now look at the specialized connective tissues. So cartilage is a specialized connective tissue. All cartilage contains varying amount of collagen and elastic fibers. The extracellular matrix is designed to be firm but flexible. That is, it will yield to force, but it returns to its normal shape after that force is removed. There are three types of cartilage. and they differ in the type and amount of fibers that they contain. Hyaline cartilage is the most common cartilage found in the body. It contains collagen fibers and a gelatinous ground substance. Hyaline means glassy, and under the microscope, hyaline cartilage has a glassy appearance to it. You find hyaline cartilage cushioning and covering joints such as the elbow joint, shoulder joint, and knee joint. Costal cartilage, that's the cartilage that attaches the ribs to the breastbone or sternum, is composed of hyaline cartilage, and the fetal skeleton originally was composed of hyaline cartilage before that cartilage is converted and replaced by bone. Fibrocartilage contains more collagen fibers than hyaline cartilage, making it tougher and more durable. Fibrocartilage forms the intervertebral discs, those cushioning pads that occur between stacks of vertebrae of the vertebral column or spine. Elastic cartilage contains many elastic fibers, making it more flexible and elastic compared to hyaline or fibrocartilage. One location where you find elastic cartilage is in the external ear as well as parts of the larynx. The only remaining specialized connective tissues to discuss are the bone and blood. Bone, or osseous tissue, is composed of bone cells called osteocytes. The ground substance of the extracellular matrix contains a large amount of calcium phosphate salts, and it is these calcium phosphate salts that gives bone its rigidity and also allows bone to bear weight. Large numbers of collagen fibers also give bone tensile strength and some flexibility. Bone tissue, of course, forms bone, the organ, which are responsible for protecting organs of the body and supporting organs and the body in general. The final connective tissue we are to discuss is blood. Blood is the only fluid tissue. Blood contains white blood cells and red blood cells surrounded by a fluid extracellular matrix, which is called plasma. And plasma is mostly water, about 90% water to be specific. Fibers of the extracellular matrix, the plasma, are only visible during clotting. The function of blood, of course, is to act as a transport vehicle for materials that are transported throughout the body by the cardiovascular system. The third primary tissue type is muscle tissue. All muscle tissue is involved in causing movement, either movement of a structure or movement of a substance. Muscle tissue accomplishes movement by contracting or shortening. There are three types of muscle tissue. They include skeletal muscle tissue. Skeletal muscle tissue is found in skeletal muscles. Those are the muscles like the biceps brachii that are attached to the bones of the body. Skeletal muscle tissue is subject to voluntary control. We can contract and relax skeletal muscle tissue at will. Smooth muscle tissue, unlike skeletal muscle tissue, is not subject to voluntary control. Smooth muscle tissue is found around hollow organs of the body like the digestive tract, the urinary tract, and the respiratory tract. Smooth muscle tissue is involved in moving substances throughout the hollow organs. The final type of muscle tissue is cardiac muscle tissue. Cardiac muscle tissue, like smooth muscle tissue, is not subject to voluntary control. Cardiac muscle tissue is found in one location and one location only, that is the heart. There it serves to move blood through the cardiovascular system. Nervous tissue is the fourth primary tissue type. Nervous tissue contain a unique cell called a neuron. It's a star-shaped cell that's responsible for generating nerve impulses or action potentials. These nerve impulses result in the release of neurotransmitters by these neurons, and these neurotransmitters communicate with other cells, either stimulating or inhibiting the activity of the receiving cells. Other cells found in nervous tissue include the neuroglia. The neuroglia are not capable of generating nerve impulses or releasing neurotransmitters, but they play very important supportive roles with respect to the neuron. They protect, support, and nourish the very important neurons. Let's review the objectives this screencast was designed to help you achieve. Describe the distinguishing characteristics of connective tissue. Describe collagen, elastic, and reticular fibers. Describe the form, function, and location of each specific type of connective tissue. Describe the function common to all muscle tissue. List the 3 types of muscle tissue and identify their locations in the human body. And list the cells of nervous tissue and briefly describe their functions. The topic of the next screencast is developmental aspects of cells and tissues.